let me move my mic a little bit here. I was recording last night on some stuff. Okay. How's everyone doing? Hey, Pepper. Hola. The drag about, this one will work. The drag about Loudons is the headstock curves at the end. And so tuners just go like, shunk, they just slip right off. Actually, I think this one will probably work. The snark will work. We're going to talk about capoing, one of my favorite things to talk about. And if you're going to be capoing, you need to have a, and I'll probably say this 5 times today, you need to have a tuner handy. Even the best intonated guitar and the best capos, you'll still probably need to make slight adjustments to a string or two, if not all of them, depending on the guitar. Let's see, what do we have here? How many do we have? Oh, I got it. 19, not bad. 1 minute in, you get 19, 20 people, that's good. It's good. Keep it growing. Everybody's got to say their hellos. Bob's here. Diane, good to see you. Diane, we have a second story, don't we? Oh, no. I thought of another one last night. I thought of another celebrity one last night. Now I can't remember. Dang it. Why do I not text these to myself? Oh, I may have told you that one. This one, though. The David Foster one. Dennis. So we have an admin in the house, which is good. Let's see. All right. Keith R, good to see you. Roger. I mean, I think I have, is it 5 or 6 reasons to capo? At some point I need to come up with a good capoing chart, but my goal is, and I've said this before, is for you not to think of the shape you're playing, but actually think about the chord. So I will use this terminology, and there will be a quiz on this. I may quiz you guys on this, but the terminology is thus. If I say shape, it's what it looks like. If I say chord, it's what it is. So hopefully I'll probably mess up a couple times. It might be a sippable offense. But for example, this looks like a G chord, but it's actually a B flat chord. And I've told you before the reasons why I think it's important to know. For one thing, you're learning your fretboard. So if you know that this is a B flat chord, you're gonna start to see the notes B flat, D, F, B flat, F, D. You're gonna start to see, or B flat. You're gonna start to see those notes unfold on the fretboard, and that's gonna give you a lot more of a vocabulary when it comes to playing. The other thing is, if you're thinking you're in a different key than you actually are, and you go up to do some kind of lick, like if you think you're in G and you're playing really in B flat, then you go up to do a G lick, and you're like, oh, wait, that didn't work. It doesn't work. You got to think you're in B flat. So that's another reason to kind of know your capo positions. But I'm a big proponent of need to know. And you don't need to know all of the capo, all the chords at every position, at least not yet. And what you need to know is what you need to know. And so if you're playing a song and it's in B flat and you want to use G shapes, then just learn those in the third position. Again, we're talking about position playing because in classical guitar music, they would say, "Oh, you're in the fourth position or fifth position if your first finger is assigned to the first fret." So that scale would be technically a fifth position scale. So when you're doing the Scoville scales, you move up to there. You've gone from the second position because the first finger is assigned to the second fret, jumped up to the fifth position. Okay. However, when I say position on a capo, we're referring to where the capo is, not where your first finger is, because technically your first finger, if it's assigned the fourth fret, that would be fourth position. But we're really not. We're really trying to visualize this as the third position chords. Yeah, Miguel, you're right. You're right that I talked about this a lot way back in the day. Also, right now I'm using a G7th capo. They gave me a couple capos at the NAMM show. They gave me a 12-string one. It's really cool. It kind of has this little. I think I did a video on it. Little diagonals that make the bottom strings not go out of tune so much, which was really cool. But this is just. I think this is just the standard. What is this model? Art G7. I don't know what this model is. They can get really expensive, but this is not too bad. And so basically what's happening with this thing is you just squeeze it and it will stay there. It won't budge until you push that. And so you just kind of squeeze it and it's got a little spot for your thumb to kind of rest on right there. And you just put it in a position and squeeze it. It's great. I actually really like this capo. I haven't tried doing a partial with it. Let's see if it works. Yeah, does a part. Now that's a trick I'm going to show you in a little bit. So the number one reason is, I guess I wonder if I could write these. So if text, it's going to be giant for a second. Reasons. Okay. Now, I make this. This is such great television. You know, I can edit this, right? I think I can. Okay, so number one is get it out of a bad key. I could probably spend the whole day on this. But the two best keys for acoustic guitar generally when you're trying to play as many chords without having to use bar chords. Because remember, the main 6 chords are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 1, 4, 5 being major and the 2, 3, 6 being minor. So in the key of G, we have G, A minor, the 3 is a B minor. So that's our only bar chord. And the 3 chord of the 6 of those chords is the least likely to be used in a song. Okay? And then we have the 4 chord and the 5 chord, which are very common chords. And the 6 chord is also very common. The most common are the 1, 4, 5, and the 6. The 5th most common chord in any key would probably be the 2 chord, because it's often a substitute for the 4, and often we'll go to the 5. Right? But the B minor is not as common. I love using it though. I mean, I love the sound. It's got a great sound. In fact, Ed Sheeran did with. No, that's actually Ed Sheeran did the G. I think just the pure G over B. And the Marvin Gaye song is the minor. So, and they sued anyway. Okay, are all capos the same? Oh heck no. And I've got a few of them here. One of the things that I'm going to take this off for now. one of the things I like about some of the capos is that, like, for example, the this is a Kaiser. I'm sure there's a reason for this thing. It may be so it can hang on your strap or something. I don't know. The hook, I'm not sure what their thinking was on that. But the nice thing about the Kaiser is you can clamp it on your headstock. Now, if you got a tuner there, it might not fit. But it's handy. It's always around. The G7, I think, will do that too. Yeah, it's on there good. Not going anywhere. So that would work too. The shub, not really. You could do it, but you'd have to adjust it, and you don't want to do that. The shub is a good one because you can adjust the exact amount of tension you want, okay? Whereas the Kaiser is just as much tension as this insanely strong spring is giving you. But I think the G7 is kind of the best of both worlds in some ways. That's why it came along later, because somebody was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And this Australian company came up with this way. So I'm not necessarily endorsing these, although, but I definitely think they're a good way to go. I mean, this is what we used in the 60s and 70s, right? And I mean, how many times did we like put the thing on and go like this and just like, oh, I hope it doesn't break, and then snap that one of the little pieces of plastic broke and it was totally worthless. This is a cut capo, and what the cut capo does is you can put it on and it'll only make the A shape. I mean, it's, you know. Or you put it on the other way and it makes an E sus shape. And that's cool. I mean, I should do a video on it, but I never use it like that. Let's see. Kind of a dadgad vibe almost, right? Because dadgad is a D sus chord and this is an E sus chord. And the thing about using a capo to create that sound, you've got all that going on down there. So you got that, but you don't have a power chord. You see, the whole point of tuning is so that you have different shapes. And so the whole point of doing a different tuning like a dadgad, it gives you different shapes. The cut capo thing doesn't really give you any new shapes. It's just a way to play, you know. To me, I think it's just it's kind of kitschy. I got one and I've never used it. Like I said, I thought I would and I never did. I could write some songs around it, maybe using it, but I can't see any real reason to use it. So yeah, I don't have 100 capos. I probably have 20. My favorite, one of my favorites is the spider capo, which allows me to push down just one string or two strings or any strings I want. So I could do a cut capo with this thing. So I use that. I'll sometimes use two spider capos or a spider capo and a regular capo to create for a pop song or something like that. So, but I can do kind of a brief overview of the capo thing. Let me see if I can edit this. Can I edit this? Edit. Oh, I can. Look at that. Will it go back to being small? Oh, look at that. That's cool. Okay. So another reason to capo, the first one being to get out of bad keys. Let's see. I'm trying to think of them all. Oh my goodness. I know I've got... a cut capo would hold down 3 strings. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, would it... If I just wanted to do like the top 2 strings at the 3rd fret? Talk about top 2 strings like that? No, it's not. It's angling. It would do the same thing on the bottom. So yeah, it won't work that way. I would suggest getting a spider capo if you want to do something like that. The spider capo would totally do that. It's a bit of a process. So if you've got an audience, you better have a good story right here. So, okay. But another reason to capo is to contrast. Let's see, I can do that with other guitarist. Right? Okay, cool. I can edit this. That's great. Make it a little smaller too. All right, and this might be hard to read, but it's just kind of a list. Oh wait, why Did I double space there? I did. Man, I gotta click on this. That was a double space. I didn't notice that I did that. Okay. All right. All right. So, and that would be one of those, this is one of those moments where I wish I had Alex with me right now. But basically what you could do, for example, say the song is, we'll just go to our 1-4-5-4 progression. Okay. Now I could capo, let me use the G7. I could capo at the 3rd fret. Okay, and play E shape, A shape, E shape. And that's okay. There's 2 problems with it. One is that I've got a B chord in it. I don't want to play a B chord, or a B shape, I should say. The other problem with it, it's not far enough away from the other guitar player. Okay, so when I play this chord, this note, this note, this note, and basically most of the notes are in this guy. You know, it's almost note for note the same chord. So if I go up one more position, meaning if I go up to the 5th fret and play using D shapes, now I've got a G chord. My G chord is a little D shape. So that's very different from his G shape. His G shape's a big 6-string banger, right? This G shape is a little one. So I'll often track a guitar down here. Let's say I would track that, and then I would double it with. And the other nice thing, so you know, it kind of where their C chord is smaller, the D chord is smaller. You're banging out an E shape and a G shape, so you're actually you're really more like harmonizing with it. In fact, if you were doing an arpeggio thing, like if you, right, and then the other guitar player was doing this, the capoing and playing the D shape at the 5th fret. It would sound like a harmony. It would almost sound like. Something like that, okay? So, and I could even go, like the next place I might go would be go up to the 10th fret. I don't know if this capo will do the 10th fret. Let's see. Yeah, it does. And then I would use A shape for that would be G. The 4 chord would be a D shape, and the 5 chord would be an E shape. And that would be radically different. Almost a 12-string sound compared to the other guitars. And you could do that and keep the guitars in the center if you were mixing it, or you could go left and right. A lot of times what I will do when I'm recording acoustics, because I do a lot of, like I said, most of my work is remote. So I like to give producers options. And I'll record the guitar twice, panning left and right, and then I'll do a high strung in the middle. So that creates kind of its own kind of thing. And I just tell them, look, if you need more brightness out of the guitars, maybe inch in just a skosh of the high strung, and you may not even notice that there's another guitar in there, but the whole mix will get a little bit brighter. So it's a good trick. What about octave GS? Octave Gs. Oh. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, exactly. If you capo, Mugu Mugu was saying, if you capo at the 5th fret, basically a ukulele. Oops. See, I didn't squeeze hard enough. Go closer to the the top 4 strings is basically a ukulele, except normally on some ukulele, all ukuleles, the bottom string is up an octave, which creates really cool little tight voicings that you couldn't normally get. On piano, I always do this when I talk about tight voicings. It's real easy on piano, but on guitar it's very difficult to get a tight voicing. So yeah, you can still, all your ukulele chords would work here, and you can still think that way. And that's the other thing, is if you want to go, well, what chord am I playing? Well, just if you think about a ukulele, that's a G chord there. and this would be a C chord. Here's a F chord. So you might, if you know a little bit of ukulele, you might know your fretboard of the guitar a little bit better than you think you do. Now, let's see. Another reason to capo. Usually this is the last one I share, but I'm having a hard time. My brain is not remembering. It's been a long time since I've taught on this. Okay, so let me go back to my text here and I add a number. Oh, here. 3. And that would be for a different timbre. Don't need to capitalize that. Yeah, I don't know that I have any guitars that I could get a capo at the 12th fret. I mean, the Spider capo would do it. But yeah, you could do that. I mean, I'd probably rather play my 12 string. And then, you know, if I capoed up on a high strung guitar, I could get that sound without having to go all the way up, I don't think. But yeah, you could totally do that if you want to. The only thing is the top 2 strings on the 12 string are not up an octave. They're just unisons. Let me see what we got here. All right. If I highlight this, can you see that? No. Okay. That's good. So, be kidding. No worries. Get to it. All right. So, different timbre. Well, I'm ashamed to admit that this was taught to me by a keyboard player, a great keyboard, really good musician, producer, composer named John Schreiner, down in Orange County. And I was playing with an artist, a singer, one of my best friends named Fernando Ortega. And we were playing a show. Oh, well, let's see. Here's another. Okay, Diane, are you keeping a list? I've got another story for you. Not this one, but the subsequent story. But I was playing a show down in Orange County with Fernando, and John was playing the keys. And it's ultimately a show that never happened. So, I'm going to tune again. Oh, no, actually, I'm not going to tune because I'm going to go all the way up to the... yeah, so you can remind me about the Fernando Orange County gig. So John was saying, hey, you know what you should do? I said, what's that? He said, on this song, why don't you play, put the capo at the 10th fret. I'm like, you're a guitar player. You're a keyboard player. What do you tell me? And he goes, and just play like, you know, an A shape. And, if, you know, like, for example, say we're doing the GC-DC song. Just do those chords, but play with a thin pick up here at the, he's like a very specific. He said, grab a thin pick. Let me grab a really thin pick. Okay. And then play right at the bridge. And it has an auto harp sound. Like that. And I was like, damn it. I was shown a guitar trick by a keyboard player. So that would, but basically that's a hugely different timbre than, and it kind of is reminiscent of an auto harp or something. So that's another reason to capo, and you get a different timbre at every fret. So the timbre of your guitar changes no matter what fret you're at. So if I'm playing, dang, here we go. I mean, that definitely sounds different than the same shapes down here. This is also a different key, but that's irrelevant. The key is irrelevant. So I'm playing. Now, if I were to play the G, C, D, C, that would be, and we're going to go into detail on this. We're not going to learn positions today. We're going to continue that on Friday and that kind of. We're going to go into more detail on this stuff in the coming days, in the coming lessons. So that's where the quizzes will be. But like here's the one chord, the G chord, C. It's a very it's a very different, different timbre, different timbre than the original, and so that when I was talking about, oh, you could capo here at the 5th fret to play with another guitar player. Well, what if you're the only guitar player? Well, you still have the option, because this, say you've got a song that's like. Right? G, C, E minor, and 6/8. But it's a love song. And you're like, oh, too big. So if you go capo up here at the 5th fret and you play the same progression. It may fit the melody better, it may fit the style and the genre of the song. So you may just capo to change, to get a different timbre for that particular key. So it doesn't necessarily have to be some weird special effect where you're trying to sound like an auto harp. Okay. Yeah, you said something about if the action's too high. Yeah, definitely capos help. If you've got a guitar where the action is really high, and you're really struggling with that, you can tune your guitar down a half step and put a capo at the 1st fret, and it's still the same. It would still be E at Denny's. Get bad eggs. Okay. I want to do a video. I actually have been saving them. I want to do a video where I'm just reading all of the different, what's it called? Not a palindrome. Palindromes, same. The words the same backwards and forwards. I forget what that's called. Somebody's going to say it. But hey, Mark. Good to see you. Where are you located? So anyway, so there's 3 reasons. I think I have 5 or 6, and I'm just trying to remember what they are. Maybe I'm confusing it with reasons to use elixir strings. Let's see. I can show you, a trick that's a pretty common trick is to use a capo in a partial context. I think I can do it with a G7, where I just capo the top 5 strings. And now what I've done is I've made E, which is a big banger key, I've made E into a little intimate key. Right? But I still have that low E option. So I didn't lose the low E. The only chord that's going to be tough to get would be like the F sharp minor, which would be in the key of E would be the 2 chord. So you might need that. So you might get into trouble. Sales calls. But what I would do in this context, if you're playing a song, I would save that low E for the chorus or maybe the second verse or something like that. That way, because remember, music is tension and release. It's about dynamics. And also, I like to say, I really like the element of surprise in music. I think that's one of the, how many times do you listen to a song and all of a sudden there's a moment in the song that just catches you off guard. And it could be a lyric. It's a hair, like something's on my glasses. It could be a lyric. It could be a melody. It could be a chord. I always call those the money chord, where I go to change the key for one chord or something like that. And it could be something like that, but music should be magical at times. And so I just like the fact that like you've got this, and it's also about, restraint. And you've got this, because the temptation, if you're a really, really good guitar player, is to play busy all the time and to show off and all that. And it's like, no, restraint. You got to do what's right for the song. And so in this context, you're using restraint because you're saving that low E. You could do the same thing if you were in drop D. Right, and then you got that. Now you're saving it. So I really find that that's a really good a really good tool. Okay. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna cheat right now. Capo. I'm gonna look up my own videos because I got 5 freaking reasons to capo and I can't think of 2 of them right now. So I think probably 4 reasons to capo. I says. Oh. Okay. Reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 4, 4.1. All right, let me look. See, I probably wrote in the. Hopefully, I wrote in the thing. Yeah, for effect to change the timbre, to contrast with the. To transfer. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much. That I've touched on all of those. The effect one I think would probably be the. So we could say the 4th reason would be for effect, but we kind of touched on that. So I kind of did the timbre thing. I talked about changing positions. The effect would have been the auto harp thing. Anybody else got any reasons? Oops, for effect. I don't need to capitalize that. Right? All right. So there's some reasons. Vito's here. All right. Good to see you, Vito. Let's see. Oh, Stuart's time to get a guitar, Stuart. Kid, move. Den, what's going on? Den done. Den done. Pepper said something she regretted. Let's see. Yeah, I was in drop D right then. Yeah, and the other thing you can do is you can capo and be in drop D. You can change your tuning, obviously, in capo. Capo and Dad get it. So if you don't want a partial capo, let's see, it's grab this one. So now I would be technically in drop F. Oh my gosh, will this work? See, the second one's always easy. It's that going for that 3rd slot. I'm just not going to do it because I don't want to break this thing. I bought this for just for that video I did on capoing. Yeah, it's such an awful capo. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have a capo, and I took a pencil and I put it here, and then I grabbed some rubber bands and went around the neck, and I had like 5 rubber bands, and it actually held it down. It just took an hour to get it ready to go. It was not very good for a live situation. Let me give you the URL for this one. 4 reasons to capo. This is back. What year was this? Does it say the date? Not here, it doesn't. A little 9-minute video. I don't know if I'll ever do a 9-minute video again. Hilarious. And of course, your first finger is a capo, palindrome. Now, palindrome. Who did somebody actually go? Let's see. Oh, sorry, you're getting an Alvarez at the. Yeah, I don't, and I kind of wish I knew more about cheap acoustics because so many beginners start on acoustic. And you know me, I love my cheap electrics, but there's really not much workmanship, if there's any at all, on an electric Strat copy. But on an acoustic guitar, there's a lot of places where things can go wrong. And one of the things you want to do is you want to look, in fact, this guitar actually has an issue with the top is actually coming up. Probably because I live in California, and this guitar was made in Ireland, and it's expected to live its life in that type of humidity. But it's not getting to, and so it's rebelling, and so I try to keep this one humidified as much as possible, and of course I'm not very good at that. But that's one thing you want to look at if you get to actually look at a guitar. If you're looking at used guitar, there's no reason to buy a new guitar if you can get a used guitar for half the price of, So say a Model X goes for $500 new. I find this true with Taylors a lot of times. You can find a lot of used Taylors out there for a good 30% off retail or more, because oftentimes nobody ever paid retail. So street or market price. So let's say a market price on a Taylor is $2,000, and so somebody bought it for $2,000, and they're getting rid of it. They'll typically sell it probably for $1,500 to $1,700 if they can get that, but they're probably on the low range. So why pay an extra $500 on a guitar if you don't have to? Now the only thing is a new guitar is going to come with a warranty. You don't know how badly the guitar's been abused or taken care of, and that's where some of the stuff I'm talking about here. That's one of the things you want to look at. You want to look at seams. You want to see if there's any crack here or any air. You don't want to see anything, a separation between the bridge and the top of the guitar. A lot of times on acoustics, that happens. You can go up and down the frets and check and see if there's any buzzing anywhere, and go up every fret and check it out. This is, again, if you have a chance to get your hands on the guitar. If you're buying online, aside from like the different weird instruments, like my balalaika or my 6-string banjo or the that bouzouki. Actually, I bought that bouzouki at the NAMM show, so I got to play that before I bought it. But I would have bought that online because for one thing, the company Goldtone, if something was wrong with it, I would send it back, and they got. In fact, I bought a tipple. I've been trying to find a tipple. Kind of stopped my search. Because Kala, K-A-L-A, makes tipples. Tipples are kind of like a weird instrument. They're like a 12-string or a 10-string ukulele, and T-I-P-L-E. And I bought one, and I got it, and it would not play in tune. So I had to send it back, and they totally took it back. There you go. It's a mnemonic. Mnemonic, or you don't say the M, right? It's mnemonic. I don't know. That's what it is, though. So. I bought this used. I don't think I have any. I've never bought a new acoustic, so I've only bought used ones. I bought this in '97 when this Loudon. I bought this in '97 when I got the gig teaching clinics for Maranatha, and Taylor was one of the sponsors, and I didn't know, like literally the day after I bought this and got it home. And this was my second acoustic. My first one was the Gibson Dove. And this sounded so different than my Gibson Dove. That's kind of why I bought it. I'm like, okay, I don't want to buy two guitars that sound alike. I mean, I never understand the person that owns like 12 Les Pauls that are all identical. It's like, why? I mean, if you're just fixated on Les Pauls, I get it. Or 12 Martin HD 28s. I mean, you don't need 12 D28s. You need one. Of course, people are saying, well, why do you need 75 guitars, Tom? And I'm like, well, no, it's just because they're all different sounding. That's the whole point. I don't have two guitars that sound alike, except maybe I have like, 8 Squires that pretty much sound alike. Yeah, and there is a partial capo too. B Kitty's asking about partial capo. Kaiser makes a partial capo that's cut here. I have one somewhere, but I can't find it. But it's got a little arch here so that you can just put it on like this, and it leaves the E string open, the low E string open. Like I said, the workaround for that is just to go ahead and do capo from the bottom and just get the top 5 strings. With certain capos, that works, and this capo it generally does. Let me see if I can get it. The hard part is making sure it doesn't touch the bottom string or it'll buzz. But it definitely puts the guitar out of tune. Now, I don't know if partial capoing makes it more likely to put more pressure on the other strings, but it's the fact that you have one string that's been totally untouched, and it was flat anyway, so. The nice thing about the partial capo as opposed to open tuning is you don't need to learn a new G chord, for example, or G shape. I remember I was having to play G shape like this when I dropped the string down. Yeah, shub. I don't know if a shub will do that. I mean, I guess it depends on the shub. And I think this is my electric shub. I don't think. Maybe a little bit more tension. Of course, that's the downside of the shub is you have to adjust it. But the upside is you can get just enough tension so you don't have to retune. Yeah, you can do it with a shub. See, I don't have the E minor shape or the F sharp minor here. Oh, you know what, Reed? Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say that I have an 814 CE as well, but I didn't buy that. It was given to me by Bob Taylor because I was teaching clinics for him. So that's literally the next day after I bought this guitar, they called and said, "What guitar do you want?" I said, "What?" He said, "Well, we're gonna get you a guitar for the clinics." And I went, "I just bought one." They go, "Well, we're going to give you one anyway. We don't want you using any other brand. Is it a Taylor?" And I said, "No." And I go, "Okay, we want you using a Taylor." I said, "Okay." I don't know Taylor guitars. And they said, it was, who was it? Was it Bob Borbonis? It might have been Bob Borbonis that called. And he don't work there anymore, but he was my contact over Taylor for years. And I said, "Well, what are the other guitar players getting?" Because there were 2 other bands, and Paul Balash was one of the worship leaders for one of the bands. And they said, "Well, the other 2 guitar players and Paul are all getting the 814 CE." And I went, "Great." And it was the coolest thing because like 3 days later, I get a big package delivered FedEx, and it's a freaking brand new Taylor guitar. But I didn't actually buy it, so I'm sorry. I hate to say that I got it for free. I know I hated guys like me back when I couldn't afford squat. You know, it's like, why do all the guys that get guitars for free, they have lots of money, but you know, I can't get anybody to give me a guitar. I got no money. But that's part of the reason. So back, let's see. B Kitty asked me, "Tom, with a partial capo that skips either the low E or high E string, what chord positions do you use for G chords and such?" Well, I mean, I don't know. Would I use it to skip the high E? Maybe. I mean, I might, you know, somebody just did a video on, oh, I think it was RJ did a video on the dropping the E down. I forget what he called that. I think there's a name for it, the tuning. It's great for slide. So, but see, when you do a partial capo, it doesn't change the tuning. So it doesn't affect anything. The only thing you're doing is it allowing you to play a little higher with an open string, okay? That's why I like the spider capo. So like, check this out. I can do something that you would be completely impossible. I think I put it this way. So I'm gonna go, and it is not, it's, I don't want to go too far. I don't want this cap to come off. Maybe this neck is too wide. Oh, there we go. All right. So you line it up. You get like this. All right. So now it's on there. All right. Now, I don't have any of the little string pusher downers push down yet. But what you do then, once you got it on, you kind of, this is a process. It's great, fine in the studio, but not great for live. But I've used it live. But okay, you just line up those things with the strings. I don't know if you can see that. All right, because they slide back and forth, so you can adjust it. And then I'm going to push down just the top string. Whoops, am I not all the way down? Yeah, go all the way here. Okay, so now I've got a high D. I mean, I'm not sure how I would use that. You might be able to, it might work good for a strumming thing. I can push down two strings, so I have the, definitely have the tune. Why is this not staying on there? Weird. I wonder if it's this one's not working anymore or something. Maybe it's a little off center. Oh wait, you know what? I know. Let's see, I did this right. Yeah. Weird. It's just not making good contact for some reason. I have more than one of these. But like I might, you know, I could use it here and here. So now I have a, what's that? That's a, so I have like an F chord. I've done that before on songs. It just sounds great. I'm not sure why the first string's not pushing up, but maybe this one's not working anymore or broken or something. I don't know. But I don't usually use it on the first string anyway. I usually use it on middle strings. And the great thing is you can play in front of it or behind it because you're not pushing down all the strings, so I could play up here as well. That's a spider capo, and I've done videos on that, and it's just a weird tool. And I talked to the guy at the NAMM show that invented it. Tried to get him to promote a video on it because I haven't seen many videos out on it. Especially back years ago when I did mine. But like I was going to say, there are Yeah, I have a 655. I think my 12 string is a Taylor 655. And technically it wasn't new. I bought it from the Taylor factory, but it was a return. So I got it for a steal, but it had been at a store or been sold and returned or something. I don't. The only thing wrong with it, it had rack burns on it. So I guess I technically have two new acoustics. Well, in my Larrivee high strung, I bought new. Okay, so maybe I have bought some new acoustics. But my main acoustics, my Gibson Dove was used. This guitar was used. My Martin, both my Martins were used. The baritone, it was new, but it was a prototype, and that was another thing with Martin that was different. The Gibson folk singer that I have, which actually I'm going to use today on a track because I have to do a sound alike for a TV show, and I need to have a kind of a vintagey sounding lo-fi acoustic, and that my folk singer Gibson, that 60s Gibson sounds great for that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's buying used is the way to go. I mean, if you can play it. It's just like the same car. I've only once bought a new car and I got ripped off, like horribly ripped off. It was my first car I ever bought, and it was totally, they saw me coming a mile away. Paid 19.4% interest on it. So a $10,000 car cost me 20 grand. It's like, Oh, you guys having some noise or something? Bruce Rice. Pepper's having a hard time typing today. Maybe you need to put your iPad in some rice and dry it out. Maybe it's getting too wet in the humidity of Alabama. I do get bullied. Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry. I'll touch my face. It was so funny because I was walking to get coffee this morning, and sitting outside at one of the coffee shops on our just down the street was the son of my boss at church, and he was just over on Sunday swimming in the pool, and they're like family, and gave him. Neither one of us are wearing masks, and I gave him a big hug. We gave each other a big hug, and people were looking at us like, "Do you want to die?" So it's like, I guess I could die. We're all going to at some point. So you'll buy online, even. Yeah, and I mean, your options and your prices are better if you're willing to take a chance online. The other thing is, here's the thing you can know about buying an acoustic guitar online, or pretty much anything online, to be honest. If you're buying at eBay, people will guard their 100% rating, and if you've got a legitimate complaint, they will totally honor. They'll take it back because they don't want to lose their 100% rating. Even if they have like a high 99% rating, like 99.9 or 99.8 or whatever, generally means you can trust them. So, you guys talking about massages now? Let's see. Oh, Diane has a list. Right. Oh, well, we already know the story for today. So, I mentioned, well, there are two keys that are great on acoustic guitar. That's D and A. So, I can't tell you how many times I've seen like young worship leaders just take the capo and put it wherever they have to be able to play in the key of G. Not even young worship leaders, established, worship leaders in churches will do this. So like, I'll tell you, like, Chris Tomlin, who writes like every song in B, like he's got a high voice. And that's like, well, another reason the capo, it can make transposing easier. Okay. So I am going to edit that. I got reason number. And I've been asked for years to do a video about how to transpose. And the only reason I haven't done that is because well, there's two reasons actually. One, it's a difficult thing to teach, especially through a video. And then the other thing is, here's the example I'll give you. In fact, I mentioned Fernando before, and Diane is supposed to be saving a Fernando story for another day, maybe Friday. Let's see. What I used to do when I was capoing, like when I was playing with Fernando Ortega, he loved to play in the key of F and the key of B flat. A lot of the songs we did, a lot of the hymns we did, and we were playing at Chuck Swindoll's church in Fullerton, EV Free Fullerton. We were doing the Saturday night worship. Fernando was singing, I'm playing guitar and mandolin. And he would, like I said, typically bring me charts and they would be in F or B flat. And so what I would do is I would just, take the chart and I'd go, okay, well, if it's in B flat, I'll capo with the 3rd fret and I'll use G shapes. So every B flat became G. So I would write on the chart, G, 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 G. I would cross out B flat, write G, G, G. Okay. Then every F chord became a D. So I cross out the F, I write D, 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 D. So it's pretty fast. You don't want to go through the chart one line at a time. You just go find all the B flats and you write G. It's just a time-saving thing. And then you find all the Fs and you write D. And, maybe there's 4 chords in it or something. It might be, let's go to B flat. Let's go to the 3rd fret. So I'm in 3rd position. And, there's the B flat chord, and there's the F chord, and then here's the E flat chord, and then there's the G minor chord. And so I would do that, every weekend, pretty much any chart he brought me, I would write all over. I'd go find a pencil somewhere if I didn't have one on me, and write the changes, make the transpositions. Well, one weekend, I think the service was at service was probably at 6 o'clock or something like that. And we would get there around 4:30 and run through the music, take a break, run through the music as a sound check, and then take a break, pray in the back or something, hang out in the back, and then come out and do the set, 20, 30 minutes of music. A lot of hymns. Fernando did great hymn arrangements. So one weekend, 4:30 came and went, and it was 5 o'clock, and still no Fernando. And I'm sitting there. I got my guitars out. I'm all ready to go. I got my mandolin out. I'm ready. And then it's like, I don't have any music or anything though. And it's 5:30, still no Fernando. And they're talking to me. Can you do some songs? And I'm like, I'd never led worship before. I'm like, and Beth was there, so I was like, well, Beth and I could probably do something. And they go, great. What do you want to do? And I'm like, so I'm like, so we're kind of scrambling to kind of put together a set list. And 5 minutes before 6, Fernando runs in, like, I guess he had a flat. I forget what happened, but he just was like, and he throws some charts on the stand, and we start doing the worship. And so, of course, there were songs in all the songs, every one of them, all 5 of them were either in F or B flat. And I'm like, I'm thinking about getting rid of my phone. All I get are scam calls. That's all I get. And so the first song, I went ahead and I've got at the time all I had was my my Gibson Dove, which was a great guitar, but it's just a pretty cumbersome big guitar to play, big neck, everything. So whatever the song is, I'm playing, and by the end of the song, I'm getting a cramp right here, and I'm just like, oh, this is why I capo. Two reasons. It's hard as blank. And also, it doesn't sound very good on acoustic. You want open strings. So the next song was in B flat, and I'm like, I'll just transpose on the fly. So I grabbed which probably Kaiser capo at the time. Probably grabbed my Kaiser capo. I put that on there, and a B flat, and I go, well, yeah, that's B flat. I know. Oh yeah, that's B flat. And then I saw the E flat chord, and I went, well, duh, that's E flat. And I went, oh F. Well, I knew all these chords. I knew that. This was a B flat. I knew that this was G minor. I knew that this was C. I knew this was at E flat. I knew this was F. I mean, I knew all that. I didn't have any confidence in my ability or my knowledge of the fretboard that was thorough at the time. This was not, this is long after I came to LA. I already had kids and everything. So, I mean, I was an established player of sorts. And I realized, wait a minute, I do know my fretboard. So then the rest of the day, the rest of the set was a piece of cake. I was like, oh. And then the next week I didn't need to write out the chord. I just went, you know what? I know this. It wasn't like I was transposing on the fly either. It wasn't like I was going G, B flat. Okay. Oh, here comes an E flat. That's the same as a C. No, I didn't have to do that. I just knew the fretboard. Okay. Now, you may not be able to do that. And I get that. That may not be your knowledge base at this moment. But if you start to learn the positions as you use the capo, so let's say you're playing a song, whether it be at church or at a club or just practicing and learning a song or whatever, and you're putting it, you're capoing, might as well, when you're going to use the capo in that position, you might as well learn the chords in that position, okay? And we're going to do that some. I think we'll probably tackle that on Friday. But I think we'll probably start right here. So, like I said, my favorite, every acoustic guitar player's favorite key are G and D, because it's just, and like I said, G had only one bar chord. D has one bar chord, also the 3 chord. Okay. Oh well, actually, the 6 chord's a bar chord too. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. So D, you have the 1, the 6 is a bar chord, the 5, the 4, the 2 is an open chord, the 3 chord is a bar chord. C, you've got G, A minor, D minor, but you have an F, which everybody hates that F chord. Of course, you can play with smaller Fs if you want. But C is not one of those happy keys. The happy keys are G and D, the other keys that are good for guitar players are A and E, particularly electric guitar players, but E is a great one for banging out big E chords. But you do have a B chord, you do have a C sharp minor, you have a F sharp minor, but there's only 2 open chords in the key of E. And there's only 3 open chords in the key of A. D, A, and E. But on electric, that doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. The other thing is, so I call those those are my pleased keys. I'm pleased that the arranger or the writer thought of the guitar player. Now, horn players hate the key of E because for them that's like F sharp. So they've got 6 sharps. If you're a that would be for any B flat instrument. So that would be tenor and baritone and trumpet. They're all B flat instruments. So they would have to play up a whole step from you. So they hate. That's why when you play with horn bands, you often are playing the key of A flat, or if you play in a B flat, that's C for those guys. That's how you remember it. If it's a B flat instrument, that means when they're playing in C, you're in B flat. I don't know if that makes it easy to remember, but basically that's what's going on there. So, but yeah, so those are my pleased keys, E and A. And then C is my okay key. Like C is like, C is, I can do a new one of these, or I can add to this one. Keys. Happy keys are G and D. Pleased keys are A and, I'm sorry, I said E and A. Okay key is C. I mean, I'm okay with C. I'm fine with C. Totally fine with C. Where's my capo keys? That's pretty much everything else. F, B flat, E flat, F sharp, B, C sharp, etc. All right. Oops. So that's just kind of my oversimplification. Would I capo out of E and A? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. A lot of people capo out of E and A. It's not just me, not because if you capo at the second fret, you can play in the key of D instead of having to play in E. Like I said, you could do a partial thing, so you still have that low E. But like James Taylor would, here's the thing. I mean, and I think maybe the person that was arguing with me on this, but the person that was arguing with me was saying, no, you should be able to play. You should play with bar chords. You shouldn't use a capo. And maybe he was thinking on electric, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I've used capo on electric, but usually for an effect, like if I want to have some ringy stuff, or if I want to play like very, very like Mike Campbell, like, Tom Petty kind of stuff. If I want to, would do that kind of stuff, and that's in B flat. You couldn't, I mean, I could probably do, but it's just too much work. You're going to be exhausted by the end of the song. And you're going to, here, I can make this smaller. It's not going to sound very good. So my argument was like, good luck trying to make Fire and Rain sound good without a capo. This is not going to happen. So you're going to have to use a capo. And if you're going to create a song like Fire and Rain, then you're going to want a capo. I mean, Here Comes the Sun is what, capo 7? Well, we could go through a list of songs, And that's really the key of A. He could have done this. But that's not nearly as intimate as the 7th fret. And what he did with, like I said, that D chord is a sweet chord. It's frustrating because you don't have any low end on it. Grace notes as shown. Hold on a second. I've got some. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, the reason the capo is, to save your hand, but the timbre thing is, the reason number 3 that I gave is a different timbre. The perfect example is the E. If I could play, sure, I could play a song in E, but if the song's about love, or, it's a lullaby, E sounds better if you capo at the 2nd fret and play D shapes. And like I said, you can still have that. You could still have low E if you tune down, or if you do a partial capo kind of situation where we just capo the top. The top. I almost prefer to tune down than do the partial capo thing, because if I want that minor chord here, I can't. It's really hard to get over the capo, if you know what I'm saying. So let's see. I've got some. Vito, yes. Let's see. I got that. Stuart, A, Stuart. I said A, Stuart, and Siri. I didn't even know I had Siri turned on. That's hilarious. Reed, you should do a video about 1-4-5 theory. We talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the blues. I don't know if you remember that. I'm not sure what you mean by 1-4-5 theory. All are major chords, Leo, not keys. If you're in a major key, the 1-4-5 are all major. Those are the three major keys. So like in the key of G, you have 1. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, C, and then 5 is D. Oh, you're beautiful. Is it C? Perfect sound of silence. Yep. Yeah, it could be, but I guarantee you, I'm sure that George Harrison wrote that with the capo. I mean, that's the other thing. I've written some of my best songs because, some of my favorite songs I've written were because I had the capo on the neck. And sometimes when I'm writing for pop artists or whatever, something's just sweeter about a capo. Even if I'm strumming, you know, it's like. You know, it'll just sound. It'll have a different sound. It'll kind of jump out, and you're right. You know, having the. Having that melody way up there, it definitely makes it stand out. And of course, when you're making a record, you know, and it features acoustic guitar, you can make the guitar as loud as you want. But you're right, the melody wouldn't have been as nice down here. Hard, and also a lot harder. So let's see. Yeah, well, and when I see bluegrass players, if they're playing in A, they almost always capo first fret, play in G. That way, all those open string licks. Because we did remember we did the E mix or the A mixolydian scale, but you know, everything you do that's autopilot in the key of G, you can just move up to A. You know, and I was watching. Some what was it? I think it was Tony Rice, and he was playing in B flat. They had the capo at the 3rd fret, still playing G shapes, you know. So, Pepper, how do you know where to capo to get the same chord? That is what we're talking about with transposing. Okay, so here's the basics, the mechanics of it. Okay. You can transpose up or down. But then how do you capo? Well, let's say you're playing a song in G, but you're asking me a different question. You're asking how does it get the same chord? Yeah, again, that's like, I almost want to just, there's charts for this. And so, like, for example, if you wanted to play a G chord with the capo 3, then you would use an E shape. And if you knew your fretboard, if you knew your neck really well, you would just know that. You would go, oh, okay, G, here's G right there. Okay? But most people don't know that. So that's where you have this where you have to have some kind of chart or something to go, okay, if you're going to capo. And I did do a chart years and years ago from I had a website that was the AOL.hometown.com website or whatever. And I had tips for worship leaders and guitar players and stuff like that up there. And I did have a chart that I had included in my handouts. And it was the basics. It was like, okay, if you're in the key of, and I'm trying to remember how I organized it, but basically here's the G chord and here's the capo position and here's what shape it would be. So, so for example, and that's a way you could do it too. You could go around and just try to find all the G's. Okay. So, and the caged method definitely plays in here because remember the caged method C-A-G. And so if you C-A-G-E-D, and that's the order. So you're asking me, like, Pepper, let's say, again, let's look at the caged method. The caged method is also the aged C method. It's also the G-E-D-K, so Jedka method, right? It's also the Ed-Cag method. It's also the D-Cage method. Meaning, if you look at that, okay, the G, if we start on G, you look at the one that says G-E-D-C-A, okay? The next shape, now this doesn't tell you what fret to play it at, but the next G shape is going to look like an E. The next G chord is going to look like an E shape, okay? So here's the E shape, and just now where is it? Well, that's here, okay? So the third fret. Now the next one is going to look like a D chord. So the next G chord as you go up the neck is going to look like a D shape. Okay? And the next one as we go up the neck after the D shape is C. So if we go up to the, in this case, 7th fret, but see, that doesn't tell you what fret to go to. This is the rub, okay? But this is kind of like the diagram that I drew out, okay? And I may try to find it and upload it to the Discord site, okay? Or I can draw one out. I need more paper, but so there's that, okay? And that's the C shape, and that's G, okay? The next one is what? After C is A. So if we go all the way in this case to the 10th fret, and I play an A shape, that's G also. G. You can hear them. They all sound the same. Oops, sorry. Totally screwed that up. Okay. And then down here. And then down here. And the same thing you can see with the bar chords. If I pretend like my first finger is a capo. And so that's one way you can do it. Now with capoing, if you want to, let's see, it's easy if you want to transpose a song up, but if you want to transpose a song down, you can go, okay, well, imagine I'm at the 12th fret and I want to, G's too high, F is better. I can capo here and play G. Of course, that's not going to work. So, but you don't want to play F bar chords, and that's where knowing, well, here was G here at the 5th fret. So if I can transpose that down, it's easy to go down. So now I go down 2 frets, and now I'm in F. So now if the song that was in G was too high for you, now F is much more doable. And so then it's a matter of finding the chords, transposing down. And so if the chords in the key of G were, say, G, C, D, C, there's a couple ways you can transpose, okay? You can just go, oh, okay, I go G down to F as a whole step. So now I need to take the C down a whole step, that's B flat. And I need to take the D down a whole step, and that's C. Okay, that's one way to do transposition. I could probably do a series of lessons on transposing. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need to call names. The other way to transpose is to use the Nashville system, okay? Where if you know what chord you're playing number-wise, so in the key of G, you're playing 1, 4, 5, 4. Then you can write out the F scale and go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. You got an F scale. Now you know 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. So that's B flat and C. So that's two ways to transpose. Like I said, one way is to go ahead and move. Now, it's a little tougher transposing like that, and I can transpose on the fly if I have to. I've done it all the time. I can sight read single note music transposed if I have to. But usually what I do is I try to fool my brain. If I've really, if we're in a situation where I got a lot of notes and I have to transpose, I will pretend like I'm in, like if it's just a whole step down and it's like, so I will just pretend I'm at the 7th fret and play and read, But if I look at my hands, I'm screwed. So that's one of the advantages of not having to read. Thanks, Pepper. Thank you. So if I have to transpose up, say, a tritone, which would be like if we're going from the key of G to the key of D flat, that would be really tough. And that one would probably, rather than going, okay, I'm going to count up a fifth. Well, actually, when I've done tritones, what I do is I think up a fifth and then down a half step. So it's a 2-step process. So like, but really, I'm not even doing that now because I'm just here's 1, 4, 5. So I'm probably more, but in that scenario where you're having to do a weird transposition, maybe a major third is kind of a weird one. I've always found that to be a weird transposing thing and to do on the fly. Those situations, I would definitely probably use the numbering system where I break down the original chord progression into numbers. And again, the reason they did that in Nashville was because they would literally do a song demo every 5 minutes. Kid you not. The band would be doing, they'd hire a band, they'd have a pedal steel and a guitar player, maybe an acoustic guitar player, an electric guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer. Drummers had it easy. And they'd hand out 12 charts. And they would do 12 songs in an hour. Now the singers, they could read, so some of the singers could read, any singers that were doing this kind of stuff, probably the guy that got the gig, and he might have gotten, the guy that got the gig might get $1,000 a song to do an arrangement. So he's going to do all the charts. He's going to do, and a lot of times what it is, the song demos at Nashville that so many of the players kind of cut their teeth on were not even songs. They were poems that somebody wanted put to music. So a lot of times the singers would just kind of get in there and make up melodies. They wouldn't even write them out. They would go, okay. And it may be the same melody for like 50 songs, but the person that paid the money doesn't know that. Because what they get in the mail, they would get a cassette tape in the mail and has their song. Hey, I wrote this song. Check it out, and they play it for all their friends. So, let's see. Yeah, that's awesome. 46. Um, how is it that the F currently you are not playing an A sharp? Well, because there's no A sharp in the key of F. There's a B flat in the key of F. You were at capo third and playing G scale chords, but you said you were now in F. Aren't you in B? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because when I, that's the other, when I capo to get away from F, I'm also going to capo at the third fret and use D shape. But I don't know if I was referencing the key when I said B flat or F. I may have been just saying what chord it was. But yeah, I'm totally prone to making mistakes because I'm like confusing my own jargon. Like I said, I want to say what it looks like when if I say shape, I mean that's a G shape. But when I say chord, that's a B flat chord. Okay. So if I say the word chord, I'm saying what it is. That's B flat chord, but it's a G shape. So that way I can say, yes, I'm aware that this looks like a G, but it's really a B flat. Oh, don't worry about it, Vito. I don't think he saw it. You don't need, it's okay, Reed. Don't worry about it. We're good. Yeah, so yeah, if I'm get a chart and it's handed F, this is also where I'll capo. Because again, remember my happy keys are G and D. So if I can transpose using the capo to play a song in F or in B flat to D shapes or G shapes, I'm going to be very happy. All right? And the same thing's true with, like, if I were playing an A flat, I would capo here. Play G shape. See, that's an A flat chord, but it's a G shape. Does that make sense? Okay, so yeah, I mean, I can keep talking on capoing on Friday. We can talk more about transposing and things like that. So I probably need to get to my story, don't I? It's all right. It wasn't that bad. Trust me, I moderate a lot worse on my comments. I've gotten some stuff that people want me to die. It's like, where do you live? I'm going to come and kill you kind of stuff. It's like, really? I want your guitars. You know, that kind of stuff is like, 12-year-old trolls. So I block them. From then on, they can't, unless they log in at a different account, they can't make comments anymore. So anyway, Reed didn't say anything like that. All right, let's see. I'll leave this. I'll leave that up there for now. All right. So Diana, I'm supposed to give you a story. So we were talking about Mr. Tate yesterday, talking about how I was so abused in junior high, and this happened in Mrs. Kivett's class. Blue-haired teacher I had. She was very old. I mean, now that I'm getting old. I mean, there's no way that she was under 65. I can't imagine. Teachers can teach as long as they want, really. My wife's a teacher, and she subs, and she's planning on going until she doesn't want to do it anymore. The great thing about subbing is she can go, oh, I'll do 4 days a week. I'll do 3 days a week or 1. She can do 1 day a week just for a little extra income. So that's, that was the, part of the problem. Mrs. Kivett was just completely oblivious to what was going on in class. And like I said, she had us lined up in alphabetical order. So the first row was like A, B, C, D, and then like somebody whose name started with E there and last names, And so I was on the far right row. I think there were 5 rows, or probably 5 by 5 or 5 by 6, something like that. And this is junior high. And this is the same guy that made me kiss his shoe. He made me, I guess I chose to kiss his shoe the last day of school that year. And if you really, really, really want to hear that story, just go back a day. And I put ads in there, so you're going to have to put up with an ad in the middle of it, I think. And so So Mr. Tate, I won't say his first name just so that to protect him, but that's his last name. Um, he so Tate is after Strahle. So I was in the front row. He was right behind me, and you know the desks. You had the desks where it had the tabletop here, right? It was like what did they make them out of? Like Formica or something. I don't know what they're made out of, but the top was Formica. And I'm sitting there. And I got my English book out, my leaf, I'm actually, and Jeff would put his feet on the back of my chair, on the bottom of the back legs, and tilt me back, and I'd be like, and I'd like grab all my books so they're not going to fly, and he would grab me back and then let me go, and I would be flying forward. And a couple of times I wasn't thinking, and my books went flying forward. Mrs. Kivett turns around and yells at me for goofing off, right? So, and the class is cracking up, and I'm like, so I go pick up my books and I put them back on there. And he did this to me every now and then. It wasn't like every day or anything like that. It was probably every other week or so he would do this to me. Well, one day, I just remembered. Okay, well, so I thought I'd only been knocked out twice. I've been knocked out at least 3 times now that I think about it. So I'm sitting there, and I've got I'm actually got my spiral notebook, not my spiral notebook, my 3-ring binder, and I got the 3-ring binder out because I'm putting a piece of paper in or pulling a piece of paper out or something like that. And all of a sudden I feel that my chair go back, and I'm like, because Mrs. Kivett's writing on the board something, right? So he pulls me back, and I'm expecting him to let me go, and he does, but unfortunately he got past the apex, and I went backwards and slammed my head on the concrete linoleum floor. And when I woke up, everybody was laughing. The teacher was yelling at me for goofing her off, right? And I had the 3-ring binder was literally closed on my chest. I don't think I have scars from it, but oh no, be kidding, I never got them back. But I did mention, so anyway, I'm like, they didn't even send me to the nurse or anything. I probably had a concussion. I swear, I probably got a concussion from that. I'm probably going to pay for the price. I probably have the reason I couldn't remember all the reasons. The reason I thought I had 5 reasons to capo when I only had 4 and I added a 5th, was because I had too many concussions. I didn't get him back, but however, I did see him like that was like 8th grade, right? But after my senior year of high school, and I went to college for a year. After my freshman year of college, I went to a sports store like Dick's Sporting Goods or Sport Chalet or one of those big five, something like that. I don't know what it's called. Probably not there anymore. I can look it up. In Nora, and he was working there, and he had one of those big knee braces on, and I'm like, oh, what happened to your knee? And he had gone to Arizona State on a soccer scholarship, and he had tore out his knee, probably ACL, and back then there wasn't a whole lot they could do about it, I guess. I mean, they repaired it, but you're not better than new at that point, and he lost his scholarship, and I was happy. I hate to say it, I was happy. Now, he might be hugely successful, super nice guy, and I'm not. I really don't. I'm just confessing the sin of being happy at that moment. I'm not like hoping that he burns in hell or anything like that. I mean, we were in junior high, and all that stuff seemed to disappear in high school. I think mainly because I kind of found my tribe in high school, the music people. Ironically, because of that story I told a long time ago about blowing up the amp that I rented with my band doing the talent show, that story, that one was, that one propelled me into high school, even though that was a bad ending. At that point, I had a really major reputation as being a guitar player. And so I was kind of like one of the probably top 3 best guitar players in school. And even going as a sophomore into my high school, I was one of the best guitar players in school. So I had a reputation, at least I had an identity, which is really what you're hunting for in junior high. You're really searching kind of for, whether you know it or not, you're kind of searching for an identity. In high school, I kind of had it. And it's sad because ultimately your identity should not be what you do for a living or what you do, your hobby is at that point. But um, blame it on him. Karma rules, yeah. Well, who knows? He may be a multi-billionaire now. I don't know. Who went to my high school that is a billionaire? Oh no, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he invented voicemail, so he's like worth a lot of money. I can't think of his name. He went to my high school, but I didn't know him. I'll tell you who did go to my high school. In fact, a friend of mine. We're still friends, and he was my high school class president. Let's see, what year? Maybe my senior year, and that was Ron Klain. And if you're into politics, you'll know who Ron Klain is. Kevin Spacey played Ron Klain in a movie. But Ron was Al Gore's chief of staff during the Clinton administration, and he was Joe Biden's chief of staff during the Obama administration. And he was Al Gore's counsel in Gore v. Bush in front of the Supreme Court. So that was the scenario where Kevin Spacey played Ron Klain. Ron's now, I don't know what he's, because he's an attorney, and his wife, they're very, very well-to-do, of course, made a lot of money. But yeah, he was, and we're Facebook friends, and, I don't chat with him very often. I mean, I haven't talked to him in years. I think I saw him at like the one high school reunion I went to. And he was cool with everybody. He was not really cliquey. He would have talked to me if we were standing in line next to each other. We would have talked. But there were times in junior high where somebody would just not talk to you, or they'd ridicule you just because you were in. I wasn't in the sports or whatever. Oh, Discord. Okay. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Discord. Here we go. And this is for anybody. We got a lot of viewers right now, which is pretty cool. Horrible story though, jeez. And so Catherine, or I'm sorry, not Catherine. Diane's supposed to remember. There you go, Catherine. Diane's supposed to remember. There's a story. And that Discord link. If you go to the Tom's bookmarks, that's where all the PDFs are of all of my PDFs of the lessons we've been talking about. No, I won't put this up there. If you want to do a screenshot of that to have that, go for it. I don't know that you need that necessarily. We're going to talk about this more on Friday. I will try to maybe come up with a diagram or something that I can post there for Friday. I've got to do some work today and tomorrow for this TV show. Doing a sound alike. But I've told you before, I don't do sound alikes. I don't do sound alikes for libraries or for composers. I mean, unless like I did do sound alikes for this one composer, and it wasn't even sound alikes of famous songs. It was sound alikes of libraries that the company didn't want to pay for, which is insanity. But so this guy was doing sound alikes of some other composer's library, but the company made him get an umbrella policy, $1 million umbrella policy, in case that guy sued. I'm like, that stinks. Why would you work for an employer that makes you get $1 million umbrella policy to protect yourself from lawsuit that he's asking you to do stuff? So, yeah, no, I just told that. Yeah, that was the Friday story is going to be the Fernando gig in Orange County story. And it's a story we probably all have a story for. Oh, what could I possibly mean about that? Because I left out the most important part of the story. But y'all probably have a story of your own about this story. So we'll talk on that day. Assuming Diane is there and remembers her. Well, Bruce, you're welcome to take a note. And then, let's see what else. So the Discord thing is great for housing all those PDFs that I've been creating. Like if I just look at these, open scales, hybrid scales, mixo scales, open minor pentatonics, open major pentatonics, chords plus an E. Oh, we did that. I forgot. Cheater chords in E, diatonic scales for in Dadgad, building folk groove, hip hop groove, and then there are a lot of, before, well, when I created a bunch of stuff on Finale for you, strum patterns. So there's a ton of those. Those are JPEGs or pings probably. So you can do that, and then there's other links there. It looks like more. Okay. Yeah. Finger picking stuff, chord shapes, and there's a ton of stuff up there. It's a lot. So we've been busy, haven't we? This is lesson 84, right? So I'll keep going on capoing. Don't know what specifically, but probably more about transposing, and so. Let's see. Vita. What was the Beth story? I forget now. That's right. I did tell you there was a Beth story, but I don't remember which one it was. Any story I say of Beth is gonna makes her look good and me bad, because there's no bad stories about Beth. But she's also in the next room right now, so what am I gonna say? No, the school didn't take it. Yeah, no, back then, yeah, not really. I mean, I'm trying to think of. I remember one time, like I said, I did 1,000 sit-ups for a while there because I didn't ever want to get punched in the stomach again. But I had, in 6th grade, there was a kid, and I remember his name was, you're going to think I'm lying. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So the kid that punched me in the stomach was Tom McNutt. Just sounds like that just sounds like a bully right there. And I was 6th grade, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Have you ever had your wind knocked out?" And I said, I didn't even know what that meant. I said, "No," and he punched me in the stomach right then and there. And I was like, it's so weird. The first time it ever happens, I've had it happen since, running into things or whatever, but I was like, I thought I was going to die. You can't catch your breath. It's like, what the heck just happened to my body? So, yeah, that's exactly right, B-Kitty. They would just give you a lecture. Now that I think about it, it wasn't Mr. Tate. I'm going to look up this person because I just don't know if he exists. I mean, he exists, but the name is totally... I'm looking to see if he's on Facebook. Sorry. Wow, there's a bunch of them. We don't have any mutual friends. Okay, there's 3. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell the name. Okay, 2012, he's not done anything. This guy looks like a douche. This could be him. Okay, so it's pretty freaking hilarious, but another thing I could do is some top 10 lists. I might do some of those. That might be kind of fun to do some videos on that. I have to formulate my list, but and it would, if I did top 10 lists, obviously it wouldn't be what I think are the greatest, but for me, like, these were important ones, like best solo, guitar solo or whatever. His name, I don't really see him out there, so I don't see that he has a LinkedIn. Dang, I got 196 comments on this. Maybe that's how you spell it. I may have spelled it wrong, because this guy would be my age. Does it say where he's from? Boise, Arizona. I don't know. So actually the guy that made me kiss his shoe was not Mr. Tate. Mr. Tate was the same class. This was the same class. Mr. Tate was the guy that tilted my chair back and then dropped me, like, all the time. No, his name, I kid you not, this sounds like a made up name. His name was Rocky Slusher. Is that a name? I'm like, and that's the guy that made me kiss his shoe. He's the one that said, in fact, it's funny because the guy who's supposedly this cheerleader's boyfriend was, who was Rocky's friend, and that's why he was going to beat me up if I didn't kiss his shoe. He said he was this guy David's best friend, and David's name is David Bastian, and David actually is a really good guy. We're Facebook friends, and we became friends, and I don't he didn't marry the girl Julie and all that, but David and I think played in a band. I think he played guitar in one of my bands, you know, in junior high later. So yeah, so it's top 10 guitars. Yeah, I could do top 10 guitars. I posted something on my Facebook page, my personal one, and I've got a million comments and people are going on it. I didn't realize. I kind of posted the comment and then just walked away. But my statement was best, or not? Did I even say best? I said name I think was my. I'll read the exact statement. Pop songs with guitar solos. I'll start. Eddie Van Halen solo on Beat It. Go. And so they're, so people started naming rock songs with their favorite, and I'm like, I guess I didn't make it clear. The ground rules I didn't make very clear. And what I was saying there was, what am I doing? There we go. Was best pop song. So pop songs, you know, like, is Hotel California a pop song? I mean, it was probably number one on the charts, pop charts, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it climbed to number one because it was so long. But there's two issues with that. I wouldn't consider Hotel California a pop song. It was a band, so they had guitar players. So people kept saying things like, well, somebody said Foghat Slow Ride, and I'm like, yeah, but wasn't that the lead guitar player taking a solo in the song? That's normal. Like every rock song had a guitar solo in it, whether it was a hit or not. So my case was pop songs that had guitar solos, and back in the day it was more common. So like one example I gave was Lukather was I had like 5 Lukather examples, and I didn't. People said Rosanna. I said yeah, except Rosanna was a band, and they had the guitar player was a lead guitar player. So a better example would be, say, Dirty Laundry, which had 2 guitar solos in it, one by Mike Campbell and one by Steve Lukather, by Don Henley. So it's a Don Henley song, and then here, you know, so it's easier if you go with a single artist. And so we may have this conversation next week or something, but single artist, and a pop song and a guest guitar solo. So another example, Lukather one would have been I Love LA, or Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John. And guitar solos are much more rare now. And so in a lot of bands, like one of them was really good, really kind of fun guitar solo was Welcome to the Black Parade, My Chemical Romance. That's actually really, really good, kind of a cool guitar solo on it. Very, very Brian May-like. Steve Stevens did a lot of cool solos on records back in the day. In fact, he did a Meg Myers a solo on a Meg Myers song that's classic 80s rock guitar solo. But when people were putting Guns N' Roses, I'm like, yeah, but they're going to have a solo on every song. So anyway, I could talk about Lukather's technique all day long. What about a lesson on fingerstyle picking sequence? Okay, Doug, I probably did 10 of those. I did 10 of those. Let me find that. All right. Go to YouTube. Go to my videos. Click on live stream. How far back was that? Was that like lesson 40 or something? Dadgad. Was it chord progression. Okay, yeah. So I'm going back. So here's what we've done. Just going backwards here. Open scales. So today was capoing. Open scales for several lessons. Chord progressions for several lessons. Dadgad tuning for 4 lessons. Strumming and grooving for, gosh, probably at least 10. Blues basics for, that went longer than I thought. Okay, so finger picking started. Oh, I don't know where it started. Hold on. Wow. Okay, so I did 12 of these. Starting on lesson 30 to 42 is, so here's the first one. Okay, so Doug, I heard you. Here's the first one. And then if you want, you can go from there. Lesson 32 was the first one. And then after that, guitar embellishments. Yeah, you were talking about, yeah, and that's another one where we could talk about one embellishment a day. There's all sorts of different kind of embellishments, right, Avito? And that definitely embellishments. Vibrato is one of those things, I would consider that an embellishment. Vibrato is one of those things, it's like a fingerprint. Every guitar player kind of has a different, especially the big ones, when you go, oh, what does Stevie Ray Vaughan sound like? What's his vibrato versus Santana's, versus Eric Clapton's versus Jimmy Page's versus Jimi Hendrix's versus Lukather's. Lukather has a very deep, slow vibrato oftentimes. Other guitar players have a very shallow, fast vibrato. So there's a lot of little tricks you can do. Some people use a violin vibrato, which is doing this instead of this. So it's, yeah. We can talk about that. I know this is like, there's probably no end of the crap I could talk about. Let's see, what else? Okay, so there was, after 5 years, when I finally did something in return, get a kid. Yeah, how often we talk about bullying, how often is it the kid that fights back is the one that gets in detention because the first punch is never seen. It's the second punch that the teachers see because the sick kids start screaming and yelling and stand up at lunch. I had a friend who will remain nameless who went to a restaurant in Indianapolis. He was home from working and he was making a lot of money. He was in sales and he was making just a ton of money. And he went to a restaurant and the waitress at the restaurant was someone he went to high school with. And he remembered that when he was in high school, they had a convertible, I think, and they egged their car, the family car. And he always felt bad for that. And he left her a $500 tip and just walked out, didn't tell her, just added $500 to the bill. And didn't say why. And it was kind of his way of serving penance. But it was like at least 10 years later. Or, yeah, we'll see. It would have been, we probably were 20. It was probably 8 years later. So, yeah, no, Lukather. But that's kind of, Leo, the Lukather that's the thing I'm talking about. So many really good guitar solos on pop songs, and that is done less. Another one that I thought was great, but it's the artist doing the solo. There's a couple of these. Ride Like the Wind by Christopher Cross, very good guitar player, and he did his own solos on some of that record, although on that album, the very first Christopher Cross record, the self-titled one, is the first time the world heard Eric Johnson, and Eric does a great solo on Minstrel Gigolo that I didn't like at first because it wasn't flashy like some of the other solos, but Jay Graydon did a solo on that record. I think Larry Carlton did a solo on that record. I don't think Lukather was on that album. But that first, if you don't have it in your playlist, listen to the first. There were 2 hits on it, Sailing and Ride Like the Wind. Sailing has probably had more legs. But Christopher Cross, that whole album is pretty darn good. It was produced by Michael Amardian, which is interesting because Michael Amardian's wife, Stormy Amardian, used to live with Steve Martin. They lived together. They were boyfriend and girlfriend and lived together. And that was trippy. I read Steve Martin's biography and he mentioned that. And I was like, wait, same Stormy Amardian? And like, yep. And she wasn't Stormy Amardian back then. She was Stormy something else. But But that record's got some great solos. And then the other one is Michael Cimbello's solo on Maniac. Is a really good solo. Also, not Lukather, Larry, Lee Ritenour did the solo on Brothers Johnson's Strawberry Letter 23 or 22. I can never remember what it's called. The song's called one thing and the lyric is another. Strawberry Letter 22. The song's called 23 and the lyric is 22. I need to listen to the lyrics so I know why. Mr. Roboto. Yeah, but the problem with Mr. Roboto is that that's a band. So it's a band solo. It has to be a song. Like I said, I got to parse through all these comments that I got because I started changing the rules as we went and people were like getting mad. So I'm like, okay. But, you know, pop song. Mr. Roboto, I would consider a pop song. There are songs that, you know, there are rock tunes that charted. Smells Like Teen Spirit has a guitar solo on it, but again, it's a band, and I would consider that more of an alt rock, AOR kind of song, not so much pop. Because I don't tend to play on a lot of AOR music, but I do tend to play on pop music because pop music is usually one artist and they need other musicians. So, yeah, I accept your apologies, Leo. Yeah, I know. Luke should definitely be considered taken out of contention because it's just not fair. But he definitely has. He holds the record for most solos. Actually, I could do another list too of unknown Lukather solos, like solos you probably have never heard that were like, holy crap. Talk to You Later is another one by the Tubes. That was Lukather. Lyric is 22, title is 23. Yeah, fun stuff. Thank you. Why is that? Is there is it explained in the lyric? I mean, I love Shuggie Otis. If you don't know who Shuggie Otis is, he's the guy that actually wrote that record or that song. Gosh. And he is one of those secret influencers, okay? You have no idea how many big artists, I'm talking Kendrick Lamar, and big artists were, you know, influenced by a complete unknown ultimately. Shuggie Otis is Johnny Otis's son. Johnny Otis was a blues singer. I think he's still alive. Johnny Otis, maybe still alive. And so Shuggie had access since he was a kid to a studio. So he was like a Prince, like 5 years before Prince came around, like 73, 74, something like that. Prince is amazing. 78 was when Prince, 77, Prince did I Want to Be Your Lover. Prince did all his playing on all his early records, and Shuggie Otis did all the playing on this record. And I mean, some of the drum grooves are great. There's some cool beat, you know, Hammond organ beat machine stuff from the, you know, your parents would have, your grandparents would have, you know, those kind of, he uses that thing on the record for stuff. If you check out Shuggie Otis's record, I forget, what's it called? I forget the name of the album, but it's got the album that has Strawberry Letter 23 on it is on there. And Brothers Johnson did a pretty faithful takedown of it. And Lee Ritenour did the guitar solo. I'm trying to think if there's any big songs that Ritenour did solos on. I know a lot of like jazz. He did a lot of jazz stuff. Carlton did some stuff. I think the theme for Hill Street Blues is Larry Carlton, and I think that charted. I think that was a hit on the radio. Back in the day when you could have an instrumental, that's another one. Let me put a list together here while we're thinking of it, okay? Because otherwise I'm going to forget this. And this has been 2 hours now. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. You guys are crazy sitting around here. So, instrumental hits. We could do instrumental hits. And hit by hit, I mean, you know, like, oh my, Popcorn was a hit. What was the Music Box Dancer? Nadia's Theme. There was a time in the 60s and 70s where you could have, in a top 10 at any one time, there would be an instrumental hit. Best unknown Lukather solos. The only problem with some of these is I won't be able to I won't be able to play them. You're going to have to play them. I can put the link here, and then you can go play them. Best pop song solos. Okay, here was one that I wanted to do that I actually was going to do, but I didn't because it would take a while. No worries, Gary. Go for it. I mean, we're dropping like flies here, but actually, we still got 33 people watching. So here's another list, and I mean, I don't. The best way to describe it is solo that added sales to hit song. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So my conjecture is probably, so in other words, a guitar solo, like you have a song, a hit song, and if it didn't have the solo, let's say it sold 5 million copies. How many of those copies were sold because of the solo, right? And my conjecture is that probably 1 million of Thriller's solos, or Beat It solo, the solo on Beat It. The 1 million sales of Beat It were because people wanted to hear the Eddie Van Halen solo. Like that was like, in other words, the solo added to the sales. Okay, I would say Freebird definitely falls in that camp. I would say Hotel California falls in that camp. I kind of cheat because basically I can tell. I would say that maybe Sweet Child of Mine. Because as a guitar teacher, I had students bringing in records. And they want to learn this, and I mean, so many students brought in Sultans of Swing. They wanted to learn that. But that wasn't a solo. That was his playing. But and same thing with Sweet Child of Mine. The hook on that is I had a lot of students bring that in. But Freebird, how many kids bought that album because they were guitar players? And they could care less about the front half of the song. They just wanted to learn the back half. Same thing with Hotel California. And same thing with Beat It. I mean, there were probably a lot of guitar players that bought that because they were like, I got to hear Eddie. This is amazing. And Eddie was established at that point. Van Halen 1 was 79. Am I right there? Maybe earlier, 78. I think it was 78. You guys would know better. Some of you would know better than that. But anyway, Peter Frampton solos are great. Although he was doing them. Yeah, best Peter Frampton solos. Yeah, let's see. My most influential guitarist would be another one. I'm trying to think of how many of my most influential guitar players I've actually met. I'm not doing many sippable offenses here, guys. Sorry, so take a sip. I'm going to touch my face. You guys are parched. I can think of 3 guitar players that I would consider that are known. I have, of course, guitar players that influenced me that were teachers or players in town, like I knew and stuff like that, that influenced me in many ways, almost more profoundly than famous guitar players. But yeah, Mark Knopfler is, boy, he would be really close to being in my top 10 list, Mark Knopfler. Though when I think decisions in life, like moving to LA, there's so many guitar players that affected that decision. Lukather, Rittenauer, Carlton, Jay Graydon. Jay Graydon probably wouldn't make the list, but those other 3 would, even though most people don't know who the heck they are. And I've met Lukather. Oh, I've met Rittenauer. So there's 4. I've met Rittenauer a couple times. At least a couple times. Carlton and Larry I've never met. But I know a lot of people that know him and work with him. A lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people that work. But Alan Holdsworth I met. Huge influence on me. He's definitely top 10. And also Christopher Parkening was a huge influence on me. And I met him. I had dinner with friends at their house with him. So Yeah. So I mean, Luke, Carlton, Rittenauer, Parking. Oops. Who did I say? Holdsworth. See Eddie, Eddie Van Halen. I would definitely say of the rock guitar players, probably Jimmy Page would be one of the big influences on me. But I kind of became a jazz snob too. So for me, George Benson was a huge. So anyway, I'll probably go into greater detail on this. But yeah, that's definitely. I can start doing videos on this too. Yeah. Well, Steely. One of my favorite guitar solos of all time was Kid Charlemagne's solo. Steely, and I was talking to someone. Dang it, who was I talking to? Because my conjecture is that he wrote that solo. It's too perfect. It's just too dang perfect. And somebody said he improvised it. And I'm not, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I transcribed that solo. I analyzed the crud out of that solo. I've applied a lot of the licks and turned them into, remember I talk about doing your own theme and variations on, and that solo to me is so perfect. It's like, and I get crucified when I talk about this to jazz players. I think the first chorus of Giant Steps he wrote. I think because Giant Steps is one of the hardest jazz pieces to solo over. I can't solo over it. It's too hard. It'd be one thing if a song just transposed, but it changes it just changes the three keys. It's in the key of B, the key of G, and the key of E flat. So they're a major third apart from each other. But it's not like he does 8 bars of one, 8 bars of another, 8 bars of another. No, sometimes it's like 2 bars in one key, and then it's 2 beats in one key, and then 4 beats off centered. So it's like it's just like it doesn't. I mean, I've seen so many analyses of it, and you really just have to know it so inside out. And I listened to Coltrane's solo on that, and I transcribed I'm going to transcribe note for note John Coltrane's solo on Giant Steps. So I start transcribing. This is how I came up with this. And the first chorus, even the first chorus and a half, is frickin' perfect. And he plays pretty much every eighth note. Like there's some held notes and things like that, but it's almost solid. He barely breathes the first chorus of Giant Steps. And then the rest of the solo, which I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6 choruses, but the rest of the solo, occasionally it sounds like he gets lost, which is 100% understandable. Occasionally it sounds like he's quoting the first chorus, and other times he's just holding out notes, waiting for find himself in the changes. Again, sounds like he's lost. So I'm like, yeah. So it's so I've gotten crucified over this conversation, but and I could sit down with the notation of it. I have it somewhere, and go, well, here's where I think he gets off track, or whatever. Here's where I think this is the exact same lick he played here. He's just quoting himself. But see, the first chorus is perfect. It's like if I were to write a solo over Giant Steps and I could write the perfect solo, it would have been that first chorus. It's that perfect. Okay, let's see. A lot of good solo riff was catch my ear. Yeah. The Beatles had a lot of great hooks, guitar hooks, and some great guitar solos. I love the solos to Let It Be, for example. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is an example of another guitar player, guest guitar player. But I don't know if that was a pop hit. Let's see. Oh yeah, Carlos Santana. Yeah, and he's a great soloist. Yeah, he's definitely. I wouldn't say he was a huge influence on me, although I did teach I taught Black Magic Woman a million times. but does his playing show up in my playing? Oh, I know one that I have in my list that probably not many people have heard of, is Richard Thompson. See, I think Richard Thompson had a bigger effect on my playing than Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler kind of changed his sound every now and then. And that thin strat sound, which ultimately became my sound, wasn't originally my sound. So I wouldn't say Mark Knopfler. Oh, interesting. B. Kitty. Let's see. Benson and Hemsworth. Let's see. B. Kitty said, James Newton Howard had a CD. I bought it because of the guitar and keyboard riffs. Yeah, James Newton Howard was on the Toto records. He was their arranger of strings. I'm pretty sure he was their arranger. He was a keyboard player. He started doing arranging, and he came up with, I think he's like, James Newton Howard is like, kind of, they all went to school together. I think he's similar age to those guys. So, because I think I just read Lukather's autobiography, and he was mentioned quite a bit. Michael Hedges, B. Kitty. Michael Hedges is the reason I don't do, fingerstyle guitar, because he just was like, nobody can do it better than Michael Hedges. I'm sorry, it's just not. I was like, I tried to figure out. Tried to get some of that stuff down. Now I like to do my own things, Let's see, what was the one? What was it? But I'm no Michael Hedges, It's this is one. That's a piece that if I do a record, it's going to be on the record, and it's a song called Emma. Emma Louise, my daughter. I wrote for my daughter because she's just kind of goofy, so I wrote a goofy song. It's kind of goofy, not horribly goofy. She's not like nonstop goofy. But Michael Hedges, yeah. So the fingerstyle thing and the guys hitting the guitars and the pounding and playing rhythm, it's like not my thing. I'm not even gonna try. I mean, I've been asked to do a couple of times in sessions. And basically what we've done is we just worked it out and figure out something. They don't want you to do something that doesn't repeat. They want some kind of loop or something in the first section or whatever. So yeah, I've done a little bit of that, but I don't even try. Those people are great and amazing, but it's a different style that I don't even want to get going on it. Ed, good to see you. Let's see, what did you say, Bob? Yeah, Hedges was mainly acoustic, yeah. And I mean, I don't want to say Leo Kottke was a big influence, but he was an early influence. I really like Leo Kottke's. Eric Clapton was an influence, but of the main early guitar players, I mean, I would say obviously the Beatles. Things that John and Paul and George did were huge influence on me. But I would say it was not so much as a guitar player, but maybe as a songwriter, or just influenced me into getting into being a band and all that stuff, to play guitar for a living. So there's that. Then of the rock icons, Jimi Hendrix, I didn't understand. Until after, well, obviously I probably never heard him until after I died. I didn't start playing guitar until around when he died. But maybe Steve Howe would be on the list, but I wouldn't consider him a rock icon. He's a prog rock icon. Steve Howe from Yes, but like Jimmy Page, Clapton, the greats, Ritchie Blackmore. I would say there was some influence there of, but did I try to get Blackmore's sound? No. Did I try to get even Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page's sound? Not really, but I really got into Zeppelin and learned a lot of Zeppelin songs and taught a lot of Zeppelin songs. And that's when you really learn stuff, is when you start transcribing things for students. So I did a lot of Jimmy Page stuff. So I would say Jimmy Page is a top 10 influencer for me, probably one of the few rock guitar players on the list. Now, here's the thing, though. Like, if you listen to Larry Carlton, he would say his big influence was his big influence was probably Eric Clapton, one of his biggest influences. And he listened to a lot of sax players too, Larry Carlton. You can tell when he plays. Rittenauer would probably say some jazz guys and classical people were his. Another guitar player that was influential on me, I would say, I might make the list, but I don't know. Joe Pass, probably never heard of him, but solo guitar player, great jazz guitar player. So I'm already doing that video I'm talking about doing, but I don't have to. Maybe I'll start doing the list next week because I'm coming up with several of them here. So, but I like thinking weird. Like the weird list idea that I have is the one I have is solo that added sales to a hit song, and it doesn't have to be a pop hit. Can be a rock hit, but it has to be a solo, not the hook. Does that make sense? So, all right. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to log out now that it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. B. Kitty, you've been here the whole time. Leo, you've been here the whole time. Diane, you've been here the whole time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Hendrix. Well, you know what? No, but I'll tell you who was a big influence on me. And in fact, Hendrix would say he was about. Actually, this is top 10 for sure. Terry Kath. I just watched the documentary on him by his daughter. So sad. Lists. So I'm going to save this to my live stream folder so that I have things to talk about. But yeah, So I'll definitely have honorable mentions. But if I can come up with my top 10 most influential guitar players, and I won't be playing any music, unfortunately, that won't fly. But anyway, I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl. I got free tickets. That was crazy. That would have been amazing. But it smelled insane. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to log out because this is getting so long. We peaked at like 54. Good job. This is like early coronavirus numbers here. All right. God bless everybody. I'll do some more capoing on Friday, and that's my birthday. So I'll sing happy birthday to myself or something like that. Happy birthday to me. And then, the solo Aqualung is a good one. Yep. But the hook is the song. I couldn't sing the solo to. And Rosanna is a great solo. As far as great solos that added sales, yeah, people that were into Toto were already buying Toto records and they already liked Lukather. So I don't know if that would work, but okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching, and God bless you. I'll see you on Friday, Lord willing.